Hey, I'm Tyson James, president of Sound Faith Consulting, and today I am joined finally by my friend and client, Chris Gonzales. Chris is a former FBI agent who has since left the FBI and turned his attentions towards creating an alternative in entertainment and video streaming called GoodTube Kids. And so he lives in one of the most beautiful places on earth in Alaska, and he's just a really good friend of mine. And before I bring him in, I just want to share a little bit of a character story. I have a reasonable faith banquet for all of our reasonable faith folks who are attending a conference. And Chris is just one of those guys who is always the first to volunteer to help, and he's always the last guy there to make sure that everything is put in order. And so he's super helpful, and it's just always been a very good friend of mine. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to give him some promotion and awareness and bring him to you guys to share with you the wonderful things that he's doing to help provide some really good alternatives in entertainment and video streaming to our kids. So let me bring Chris on. Chris, so great to have you with me, man.
It's great to be here, man. That intro was so awesome. I was impressed. Like, oh man, this is gonna be great. Who is it?
Who is this guy?
Yeah,
He
who is
sounds
this? Oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time coming, and things kept popping up and getting in the way. So I'm glad you're finally able to join me, because I think what you're doing is super important, and I hope people catch a vision for how effective what you're doing can be in shaping the culture. So before we get into anything, every interview I ask the same question to start off. So this is a curveball because I didn't tell you this,
I
but
like it.
I'm going to ask you, what is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory is
Earliest
writing.
one.
Yeah, I I have to think if it's a picture that makes me remember it, if I really remember it. But I remember riding on a police it's a little trike motorcycle. It was a police motorcycle like Chip, and I could ride it inside my grandmother's house. I lived with my grandmother when I was a kid, and my uncle had bought it for me, and so I could kind of ram into things and it would light up, and the lights, the red lights. When you said your earliest memory, that's the first thing that pops into mind. I was pretty young when I had that too, so that's a good
What?
one. Look where it got me.
Right. That's very interesting because I mean, you ended up in law enforcement
Hmm.
and FBI. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was another question I was going to ask, was like, you went into the FBI. So
Hmm.
let's get into that. Like, what
Great.
made you go there, and how early on did you kind of have that mindset? Like, this is something that I want to do.
When I was really young, I said I wanted to either be a pastor or a law enforcement officer, and I've been fortunate and blessed to have an opportunity to currently be doing both, to do both and be doing both. But when earlier in my high school career, I really wanted to go into the special forces field, and I had gotten accepted to the Air Force Academy, but then I got medically disqualified. They said, "Oh, you had a history of asthma, you can't go." And so that kind of put that on a back burner. And I thought, well, I don't want to do. But I had this interest in the FBI, and so I went. I was blessed to get into Texas A&M. Went to Texas A&M. That's where I met my wonderful wife. And when I graduated from there, I remember my senior year, I was like, I gotta get a job. All that stuff in college, when you're like, oh, I want to be on the track. I was on the track and field team at A&M, and way out of my league there. There's like Olympic caliber athletes. I'm just a strong country boy. And then my all these like things I want to do in college is like, I'm gonna get married. I have to get a job. Who cares about 19th century Victorian literature? I need a check. So I got a job as a police officer, but I said I want to be in the FBI. I want to be in the FBI. So 4 years as a police officer, 1 year at the Department of Defense as a special agent there, and then I finally had the opportunity to apply for the FBI in 2009, and it was a dream come true. I told my wife, "This is like the Olympics for me. This is my big thing." My family flew into Quantico when I graduated, and there I went. I went right into work counterterrorism. And this is interesting, an interesting parlay into our work and interest as apologists.
Yeah.
It was because of my work in counterterrorism that I really got into Christian apologetics, because I was reading and reading and reading the claims within Islam, and not separating that even from the cases I was working, right? Homegrown violent extremist, Hamas, Hezbollah, working these cases, but just the claims of Islam, and I couldn't form a cogent response to who did Abraham sacrifice, right? Who was Jesus? What happened at these times? I said, I don't think that's not correct. How do I respond to this? And then I found Hank Hanegraaff, the Bible Answer Man. And once I'd listened to him, led me to Dr. Craig. So that's another side.
Yeah, well,
But
I forgot to mention that Chris is also a Reasonable Faith chapter director, which is where we've known each other for years and
mhm,
years. Um, so Reasonable Faith has chapters all over the world that
mhm.
fulfill the mission of Reasonable Faith at the local level, and Chris has been doing that for several years. So that's why he's always, been coming to the Reasonable Faith
Mhm,
banquets,
mhm.
and it's just been a joy to be able to connect with you in person at those things, man.
Sure. It's funny you say hanging around. I'm so eager to get there and hang out with everybody. I'm looking for an excuse. Oh, I'll polish the silverware, or I'll do anything. I just want to hang out with you guys, you and Dr. Craig and Dr. Tim Stratton and all these guys that I can't believe I get to hang out with them. So, the feelings mutual. I've appreciated our time there, but the FBI I was there 14 years as a special agent and worked counterterrorism. I was on SWAT most of my time there, specialized in white collar later on, and spent some time at the Hoover Building and headquarters in DC. And so I had a really good career. But there's a new chapter that we were called into.
Yeah. So speaking of that new chapter, you had, you said 14 years there.
14 years as
Uh,
an agent.
yeah. So that's a long time to spend somewhere, and then so kind of suddenly
Yes.
decide I'm going
Yeah,
to do something else.
it's
So
true.
what was it that made that transition for you, and why did you decide to take the leap to leave the FBI?
So there's two reasons when I left. There was one was within the bureau. I felt we had what I called and wrote to as I left. I wrote a letter to the bureau called a crisis in leadership. And what I believe is some of the problems that we're seeing in the bureau are caused or are a byproduct of really ladder climbing and people wanting to move up the ladder, which then creates bad habits of saying yes to headquarters, which then creates uh, a habit of not focusing on the field and then focusing on the mission out in the field because everybody's looking headquarters bound. And that puts it in a small nutshell. But
That sounds like something you would see in the corporate world, not the FBI. So I mean, it's like really kind of like that though, huh?
well, there are people who want to climb the ladder. And in order to climb the ladder, you have to start moving pretty early on. And in order to start moving early on, you're going to need to say yes. It doesn't help to climb the ladder when you say no. I said that in the bureau, I got the stick more than the carrot a number
Mm.
of times because I said, no, I don't. It doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? This is a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer money. This detracts from the mission. And that doesn't sit well with people when they're trying to have something move forward in order to write to it for their career. But what you end up with is orphaned programs throughout the bureau that were birthed but never cared for, and the incoming parent, incoming agent or supervisor, that's not their program. And so you have these orphaned programs being born and dying and born and changing for no reason other than to say I made a change. I felt like now there's plenty of excellent people in the FBI. I think we all know that. But I don't believe that the FBI is burdened by this massive corruption that I think unfortunately the public has come to feel
Hmm.
has tainted the FBI. Now I don't blame the public because some things that have transpired within the government, and I think that it's healthy to question, such a powerful agency. But one of the things I've said about the FBI is, listen, we're like Superman, right? Superman can save 99% of the people. But if he just smites one person for, getting in his way, everybody's like, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to use your powers like that. It's not okay. And that's what I think about with the Bureau. We make a mistake. It's a big thing. We looked at the leaked analyst memo regarding homegrown terrorism and within the Catholic Church or within churches. That came across terribly. I don't know if you're familiar with that in Virginia and other missteps. Now, there's going to be missteps in any agency. There's going to be missteps, but the bureau, and I think I'm a realist, idealist. I don't know if you can be the same thing at the time. I want us to be as good as we should. And I know that we're not going to, but that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't strive for it.
Sure.
And
Well,
so,
that sounds like the Christian message, right, of sanctification.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know,
run the race as if to win, and you know you're
yeah,
going to slip and fall. And
right.
so I left the Bureau at a great point in my career. I was on SWAT here in God's country, Alaska. I was working white collar crime. I was doing everything I wanted. I had a great salary, great benefits, but I just didn't feel like I was able to do the work because I was too busy looking inward rather than outward. And I think that God was closing a door I never expected to close. Like it just what didn't make sense. On the other hand, there was a passion and a call on growing, which is for this, as you mentioned, good tube kids, and I can talk more about that in a moment.
Well, yeah, let's get into that. That's kind of the reason you know, got out and immediately started working on this project. So,
That's right.
what is Good to Kids?
That's right.
Why is it important, and how can people get involved?
Those are some of my favorite questions, and they're often questions I answer without anybody having to ask, right? So, January 2nd, I resigned from the FBI. So I left about 8 years shy of retirement. And that was a big step, a big leap of faith. And it was hard to pull that brass ring from my death grip I had on it. But God called me away from the Bureau. And January 3rd, we launched Good Tube Kids. And let me Good Tube Kids, we have a twofold mission to be a safe place for kids and a resource for parents. And so I see that so many of us were complaining that our kids were being tainted online. And I realized that the greatest battle we're in right now is for the hearts and minds of our youth. And the battle place is taking place in the digital realm. And so not only do we need to warn parents and equip parents and prepare parents, but we need to give them options. And so at the time, there weren't very many options that I found that were um, what meant what I wanted my son to see. So let me step back a little bit. My son was 7 at the time, and we were on YouTube looking for the sizes of planets, and uh, something popped up right under our nose, and it was a video that I think was some sort of dark satire clickbait. That was a family. My son described it as a family who hates their kids, and they had blood on their faces. Now, I believe it was satirical, but it popped up so fast, and we said, "I'm so sorry you saw that." He was very disturbed by it. He didn't understand why somebody would make something like that. And we were literally in the living room with him, at next to him as he's watching YouTube, and this pops up. And so we call it getting bit by YouTube. Well, I said, my fault. As a parent, I should have put you on YouTube Kids. That's made for YouTube, made for children. When I went to YouTube Kids, it was far worse. And why is it worse? Because parents trust it. And if you go to goodtwokids.com and you look, there's a place where you can sign up for our ebook, Poison to Candy, and it talks about the dangers of YouTube Kids and how there's not only pro LGBTQ plus agenda on there. There's the Blues Clues episode where there is a drag parade with numbers of different families. I'm not sure if you've covered that on your channel, but there's families with two daddies, two mommies, three daddies. There's one family that they describe as ace, bi, and pan. So asexual, bisexual, pansexual. There's transgendered otters on the show, and this is all aimed at 3 to 4 year olds. The thing that my son was recommended first, the first video recommended was what it's like to be a transgender boy, and this was for a 7 year old. And I said, "Wow, this is mind blowing. I can't believe this is on there. And not only is it on there, it's promoted." So then I started to look at children's media. And I realized it was really abysmal. The status of children's media is abysmal and not trustworthy. If parents don't know the dangers of Netflix, of Disney, of YouTube Kids, YouTube is not safe. There is open pornography. There's open violence on there. The internet is not a safe place for kids. And so I said, I need to do something about it, and we need to create a safe place. And so we created Good Tube Kids. And that's our mission, is to be a safe place for kids and a resource for parents. And so we not only built the website where parents can find more resources, and I put out content each week and every day about what you may need to know about how can you protect and prepare your kids, and what are some other great companies that are coming out that have resources for you. But we built a platform. Where was I going to be able to build a platform with the best wide variety of entertaining and educational digital content that was anchored to the truth of the Christian faith, that had strong male role models, all of these things? Not only do we need to protect our children, but they can't live in a marshmallow world forever. And we need to teach them about careers. We need to teach them about fitness. We need to push them to better themselves. They need to see strong male role models, both our young ladies and our young men. And that's something that the children's media realm is lacking significantly right now. And so I didn't just want my son to have a safe place to watch things. I wanted him to have good content. And we said, all right, let's get some of that gold that's in that minefield of YouTube and bring it over. Now, people think, well, you're against YouTube. I'm not against YouTube. It's just not for children. It's not a place that children can go and look around, because there's no safety nets there. So we wanted to create a place that wasn't only safe but good, and two, we went and got some other good platforms. Minnow, Yippee, they would be what people might consider competitors. I think that they are others that are doing good for the kingdom. The problem is that my son got bored. He was bored with some of the content on there, and he said, I've said before, sometimes you need more than Veggie Tales, right? Not that Veggie Tales is bad, but there are kids who are starting to grow up and get bigger hobbies, and they want to learn more. And there are kids, especially our teens, who don't have a place to go. They don't have anywhere to go to find content that's not either on YouTube, right? Especially the tweens. Our teens, as they get older, we're going to have to start to let those reins go a little bit. The 17, 18-year-old, well, the 16, 17-year-old, those tweens years, that teen years, really got to be careful about what they're seeing, because they can dive off into some pretty bad stuff. So on January 2nd, I resigned from the FBI, and January 3rd, we launched GoodTube Kids.
Excellent. So you were talking about, the content difference, and I'm glad you mentioned that the content on GoodTube Kids is grounded in Christian conservative ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on YouTube, people are just uploading, and it's only after the fact that videos get flagged and
Sure. Right.
taken down or whatever. What makes GoodTube Kids different about that on the back end of things? How are you
Right.
managing what kind of content ends up on GoodTube Kids?
Excellent question. Everything really goes through me. So it is all handpicked. And what we do is we work with trusted content creators that we find from a wide variety of places. A lot of them are on YouTube. We find a lot of great videos from YouTube, and we say, hey, you've got great content, and I don't want you to take it off of YouTube. I want other people to go find it there that don't know about GoodTube Kids. But for those parents who want their youth to be able to watch these videos in a safe place without having to worry about the ads, without having to worry about the next video that might pop up, we like to host it on GoodTube Kids. And so we have licensed content from a number of different groups. We have a lot of Christian apologetics content. We're adding a whole host of public domain content from the classic years. So we have classic Popeye cartoons, classic Superman cartoons, classic Three Stooges cartoons that are coming on. We're going to be adding Roy Rogers and some U.S. Marshals, old black and white TV shows where there were, strong men, and there was a few gunfights and some punches, and everybody got up and went home at the end of the day, it seems like. But we wanted to add some of the old-time heroes there. We just got a great group called Sunday Cool Tees with Cool Carl. They're actually a Christian t-shirt company. They make these hilarious Christian, funny videos about youth group and youth pastors and things that my son absolutely loves. And so we're loading those up right now. GoodTube Kids is creating their own content. We created a duck hunt that we went out on. So we showed kids how to go from heading out for the duck hunt, setting up your tent, firearm safety, decoys for the ducks to come in, harvesting the ducks, cleaning the ducks, and then eating the ducks. And so we want to do that more often, especially as this next year comes out, and where we can really show youth what it's like to go outside. And we want to inspire them to do their own outside adventures. And so with that, we're working with Trail Life USA, with Trail Life Hacks with the Wild Brothers. And so kids can see how to cook a fish over an open fire, how to make rope in the wild, how to pitch a tent and pack for a camping trip. We also have cartoons. So you see all these things that I would want my own son to watch because I'm a parent. I want to have that option. I don't want kids on screens all the time, but when they do want to go on screens, when they do want to do research, I want them to have a safe place to do it. And so
Yeah.
that's what GoodTube seeks to do. And so I have learned so much in this past year. We launched January 3rd. We're coming up on January 3rd here soon. And I spent my years, like I said, working counterterrorism, kicking indoors and on SWAT and all these things, not building media companies. But, you know, if not me, then who? If not now, then when, right? And if God calls you to it, he will bring you through it. And so he has certainly done so every day. My family is supportive and it takes a lot, but what if we didn't do it? Our kids are worth it. My son is worth it. Your children are worth it. For those who are listening, I'm doing this as much for your own kids as I am for my own son.
Yeah, well, I'm a subscriber, so I can testify that the content on there is great, and I see that you are constantly adding content. Before we got on, you were mentioning that
Mhm.
you have a ton of other stuff that you're going to be putting on. So tell me a little bit about what's coming up.
Yeah, so the like I mentioned, Cool Carl, this partnership with Sunday Cool Teas and Cool Carl, boy, these videos are hilarious. They make some of these youth group videos. Then they make one about when a youth pastor is having a dodgeball game and how ruthless youth pastors can be during dodgeball, and then a whole slew of videos there where you also get to learn about the Bible in a really hilarious way. And then the public domain content, that's going to be really neat because I think there's a lot of classics that many of our parents loved, our grandparents loved, that we still like to watch. And it would be great to have those in a place. Some of those things are available on YouTube, but we say on YouTube, you're one click from disaster. You're just one click from disaster, and our kids should not be on there. We have to. It's too dangerous. It can happen even under your nose. So let's put those in a place where you can let them watch and you don't have to worry. So the Roy Rogers, the U.S. Marshals, we're working with groups like the Torchlighters, and so we have
Hmm.
all of the Torchlighters on, so you can learn about heroes of the Christian faith. We have some stuff from a group called Adventures with Pookie, and she's a lady that tells stories about her dog that had been named Pookie and crafts and cooking. So if you want to learn how to make fudge-filled brownies, I don't eat chocolate, but fudge-filled brownies was one of them. And I had a friend send me a picture of their kids that made these fudge-filled brownies, and they were delicious. So you can see where we take, and we have some fitness videos coming out. We have cooking, crafts, arts, music, videos. In fact, we have the Pilgrim's Progress on there, a feature-length film that's a really wonderful animated take on the Pilgrim's Progress.
Hmm.
So in every arena, we want to have all those good things, and that's the beauty of Good Tube Kids is not every video is a sermon, but every video is safe. And I think that you can learn how to become. How do I train for the special forces? Maybe a teen wants to learn that. That's something that we would like to add. How do I get in that sort of shape? Right? What's it like to be a welder? What's it like to take your everyday walking around life and live it for God? Because our youth are interested. They're interested in hobbies. They're interested in adventure. They're interested in future careers. So we want to begin to film and add those as well. And we tell if you have an idea and you think you could teach youth about something, reach out to us. info@goodtubekids.com. You can reach out to us. And if you'd like to submit a video that you think would help youth, please let us know. We're looking to get all of that great content and put it in one place.
Yeah. If I could put in a plug, I was just thinking about old shows, and I loved watching Zorro. So
Oh, that's a good one.
maybe there's some that are public domain now. It'd be
Yes,
great.
I'll have to go look. I'll have to go look. Yeah, we are scouring the earth every day for new video, new content, and editing. Editing has been one of the most difficult things for us. I have a really awesome halibut fishing trip we went on and got great footage. And I had all the cameras up and running. I had cameras on the bow. I had cameras that we threw in the water. And I was like, what do I do with all this footage? So editing on the backside has been something that's slowed us down from filming, but we're looking to get a better handle on that this year.
Yeah. I think you mentioned before the recording here that something like 30,000 minutes of content. that you
Hmm.
have waiting to
Yeah,
be put up,
waiting to be put
and
on. A
that's
significant amount
incredible.
of Christian apologetics content. So we really believe that's important for you to be able to explore. And we have the whole library of 1 minute apologist videos. And so if your youth are looking for,
Bobby Conway,
and
yeah.
yep, Bobby Conway, if they're looking for excellent, concise answers to questions, there's a whole resource there that they can explore. And we're refining all of that to add search terms and make it easier as well.
You just showed me this morning that you have a new homepage look on the website, and it looks fantastic. So I encourage everybody to go to watch.youtubekids.com.
Oh,
To
watch it there. Watch.goodtubekids.com.
Oh, watch.goodtubekids.
See, they
See,
got you. That's right. They
it's
got
just
you.
yeah, it just blows out. Yeah, watch.goodtubekids.com to check out his new homepage.
Thank
And
you.
it's just so incredible that you've started this. And you were mentioning some of these other platforms that are available that are kind of similar. One of the most, the ones that is blowing up right now and just
Yeah,
got released is Bentkey through Daily Wire, right?
that's right.
So it's kind of similar to what you and Minnow and these other streaming platforms are doing.
Sure.
So for somebody who's looking to get, into this, more conservative, more Christian focused
Mhm.
space with safer content, trying to get their kids away from things like YouTube,
Mhm.
so they don't have to worry about that kind of, just getting bit by YouTube, as it were.
Yep. Yep.
Um, why should someone, subscribe to both GoodTube Kids if they've already subscribed to like Bentkey?
Yep. That's a great question. When I saw Bent Key come out, because I'm a Daily Wire subscriber, I watch Michael Knowles, and I know that they were coming out. I knew they were coming out with something, and when I saw it come out, I was like, "Oh, it's great! It's
It's great.
I'm so happy that they did so well." And a lot of the people I was talking to for content were like, "Oh, we're talking to Daily Wire, and they're a juggernaut. They're a juggernaut." But I think one of the things that's different is one, the age range. We're looking to also create content for the tween to teen age range. That was our original intent, in fact. But we also have now added content for the full bandwidth. So we will add more content for the older age range. I know that Daily Wire is a conservative company that is founded on Judeo Christian values, but we are a Christian company. And so you will not find, I think, on Bent Key, Christian apologetics. I don't think you're going to find, we have 2 minute theology, which is just 2 minute vignettes about theology from another EPS attendee. And so we have a lot of strong academic Christian content like Reasonable Faith. In fact, Dr. Craig's, the really great, about 17 different videos they have from Zangmeister.
Zangmeister, yeah.
Yep. So those Zangmeister videos, we have those on there as well. And so you're going to find clear cut, excellent Christian theology in educational videos that I think a Ben Key may stay a little bit away from. You're also going to find duck hunting on there. I'd like to go caribou hunting and film that, the halibut fishing trips. Some of these things I think that you're not going to find. You're definitely not going to find that on Minnow or Yippee because that's just not their realm. Minnow and Yippee are really like going to Sunday school. They're every kind of video there is going to be like going to Sunday, and I don't think that that's bad. I think that that's good. I want to have youth learn some skills. Like one of the things I've talked about a lot is we'd like to have them learn how do I iron a shirt, how do I clean the bathroom, how do I shovel the driveway, how do I tie a tie. And so we'd like to start filming these videos so that youth can say, oh, okay, well, nobody showed me. I didn't have a dad growing up for the first 8 years, and there was things I just didn't know. How do I inflate a basketball? So these are some things that we would like to film and get on there so that youth can just learn, not just be entertained, but also learn and have that repository. And another thing, I'm working with a company called Sharewood. They're another company that just recently launched, and I think we have a
What was the
partnership.
name one more time?
Sharewood.
Sherwood.
Yeah, Sherwood. Maybe I should pronounce
Sherwood.
it differently.
Okay.
Yep. And so they're another option. And so to parents, certainly I would like you to subscribe to GoodTube Kids. And if you want to just support the mission on goodtubekids.com, we have a support the mission option. But I'm a I'm a parent as well, right? And so I want what's best for your kid. I don't want to hook your child to GoodTube Kids and YouTube. Does right? They want to consume our eyes and hands as long as possible. That is not what I want for your child. And two, I think it's funny how we grew up with, well, what are some of the big media companies? ABC, CBS, NBC, and then we have ESPN. And but then as parents, when we're looking for our children, we're like, well, okay, you're going to get one app. that that each app takes on the flavor, I think, of its founder.
Mm,
And so and what that person wants to do. And so you're going to see that in Good Two Kids. You're going to see a lot of things that I like, right? The U.S. Marshals and Roy Rogers and hero shows and Popeye and Superman and just things that I like. And going duck hunting and fitness, Christian apologetics. Those things come first to mind when I'm looking to add things. We're going to see different things on BentKey. And if you have a Daily Wire subscription, take advantage of that. Offer your children more safe options so that they don't then turn to the other ones, right? So that they don't start going off into YouTube. If they're satiated and satisfied with, well, I have these great things, I don't need to go over there, then you have a less option or less likelihood for them to venture out looking for
right.
something. So
Well, I think I made this point. We had a conversation when BentKey came out, and
mhm,
I talked to you because I was, obviously we wanted to talk about the competition a little bit. And I made the point to you that almost everybody has multiple streaming services
mhm,
already, right? You've got, your Netflix,
yeah,
your Amazon Prime, your HBO, your, Hulu, like all of these different things, as well as YouTube. And so why do people have all of these different streaming services? Well, it's because they want a variety of content, and each of these
mhm,
platforms offers something different.
that's
And I
right.
think if you're going to get a subscription to, BentKey, you're already in the mindset that you want some content with a different ideological focus than the normal fare that you're going to be offered on these other big platforms.
Hmm.
And so I think that's why if you're looking to really orient your life towards a better set of values,
Hmm. Hmm.
and especially if you're a Christian, then I would highly suggest subscribing to GoodTube Kids as well as these other conservative, streaming platforms,
That's right.
because the more we orient ourselves and spend our money in the direction of
That's right.
these types of platforms, the more it's going to change and affect our kids and future generations. And if we're not investing
Hmm.
those time and that time and resources in educating them, in entertaining them with the values that we want to instill in them, then they're going to get those values and be affected by those other platforms that don't have the ideologies that we cherish.
That's so well said. Yeah, one of the things I tell parents when I meet them at different conferences is I know that one day I'm going to have to answer to God for everything I said or didn't say or did or didn't do. And I can tell you that the other companies aren't thinking like that, right? YouTube, Disney, Netflix, that's not their concern. And so my son was on an app called Freevee one time. We were about to leave to go camping. He was watching Dennis the Menace, the old black and white Dennis the Menace. What could be more innocent than the old black and white Dennis the Menace? And in the middle of it popped something about transgender men dancing, or drag queens dancing. I said earmuffs and like close your eyes. And we were just trying to get packed to go camping. And you just can't you there I the problem is not that it slipped through the cracks, right? Imagine something slipped through the cracks of Good Two Kids and you told me, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Let me fix it right now. It's not that it slipped through the cracks, it's intentionally being targeted towards your children. Why was a late night adult show about drag queens that should not be watched by children advertised during a black and white Dennis the Menace show that was being watched at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And it's happened over and over and over to parents. And so we are going to have to make affirmative steps. It is important enough for me to leave my career in the FBI to work on this matter. And I hope that says something about how important I think this is. And one of the things you'll hear about the internet, if I have 2 seconds to tell a parent why they need to be careful with their children on the internet and apps, it's this. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the FBI state that at any one time there are at least 500,000 pedophiles online at any one time, and they are hunting your children.
Hmm.
If you leave with nothing else, if you don't subscribe to GoodTube Kids, if you don't remember anything else, I am sure you will remember this. There are people on the internet who seek to do your children harm, if not first mentally, then physically. This is a very dangerous tool that we have in our hands, and it can be used for good or for bad. And so we need to give it the respect that it's due and handle it and put parameters. And so that's what we did with Good Two Kids. We're going to say we're going to make a safe place that kids can just wander around, and you don't have to wonder what they're going to run into. And we're going to send parents a free email each week to say, here are some more resources. Here are some more resources. And so you can search our blog for the resources. You can sign up for our free email. You can subscribe to Good Two Kids. We have a 7-day free trial, and you can look and see what's going on. But I truly want to help your children, for the glory of the kingdom, for God. And, we talked about, I got back into law enforcement just recently. I'm working in a police department here in Alaska to both help pay the bills while we continue to grow Good Two Kids and just to continue to serve. I think I still have something to give in that realm as well. So a busy season, but that phrase we mentioned earlier, run the race as if to win, takes work. Running races is tiring, and your lungs burn and your legs hurt. And for parents, when you have kids, you need to get in the fight for your kids. And it's easy to be passive, but we need to be in the fight.
Yeah. So real quick question. As you said before, the way that, you're going to be filtering the content is that it all comes through you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, the platform takes on the flavor of its founder. So for people who, are just being introduced to GoodTube Kids, they don't know you very
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
What is your sort of religious background and your current religious stances, so that when people go in, they know exactly what they're getting into? It's like, you might say that you're a
Sure. Fair.
Christian,
Great
or,
point.
you believe in God, but
Yeah.
that can mean so many different things. Like, a Mormon could say that,
Sure.
a
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness, like all of these
Yeah.
different things. But what is your particular flavor there?
Yeah. That's great. I'm Well, golly, that's funny because I'm Christian, right? That should explain it. But then you're right. You get into these discussions where um, you're saying, "Oh, we're very different than what I'd originally thought." Some of the things I tell people is Good Two Kids is that we're pro-life, we're pro-traditional marriage, we are pro what you consider conservative values. As a Southern Baptist denominationally, I would adhere to the Southern Baptist faith and message generally. Now, not everything within Good Two Kids has to adhere so strictly to that, in the sense that I'm an old Earth creationist, but I have some young Earth creationist content on there. We have some people who I think have made some nice content that talks about science, and they're young Earth creationists. I'm also going to be getting some old Earth creationist content on there. I think that our
Real quick question about that. So why did you decide, if you don't agree with that position, to include that content on GoodTube Kids?
Well, because I think Dr. Craig would say hermeneutically, it's a viable position. And so I would like to say, let's look at this content and let's learn what is the position here, if it's being fairly represented, and then let's look at the older creationist content, and then let's be able to study that. This is an in-house discussion for Christians, and we should be able to have these in a fair and amicable manner. And
I
so
love
I
that.
yeah, well, and I think that our youth need to learn that. There's one of the gentlemen conversation with a Calvinist, Keith Foskey. He has some really funny content on there, making fun of Presbyterian and Baptist. Is like, Presbyterians and Baptists and Methodists go to the shooting range and how they act there. Presbyterian, Methodists, and Baptists go to the picnic, how they would act there. And he's always superior with theology when he's a Presbyterian. And
That reminds me of a Babylon Bee article where they said,
yes.
motion sensor lights turn off in Presbyterian church.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think it's great to have these in-house discussions, and kind of poke fun at ourselves and be able to laugh, but teach kids that, hey, I heard this and I heard that. I don't have to be virulent. I don't have to be angry about it. I can find out and
Yeah.
We can go to talks without having to go to blows. So that's important. Now there are other things though that you're not going to see LGBTQ plus IA agenda anywhere on there. I do want to see strong male role models and female role models, but I don't think in our culture right now we're lacking strong female role models. On the other hand, the discussion of what is a strong female role model, that has been met a little bit because I think there's been a downplay of women being able to stay home and be mothers and homemakers and the skills that go along with that. So American Heritage Girls is a group I really support and appreciate and would like to work with, and we have some of their content on there. We encourage youth to get into those groups, so we don't just want them on screens. We want to say, here, this thing you can do, now go out and do it. Go be part of these groups. Go take part in your church. So there's a complicated interplay there of saying, I want to be a digital resource for you, but as a parent, as a pastor, as a Christian, I would care more about your child than I do their subscription and that I do their time and hands on my app. I want them to be the best that they can be for the Lord. So that's as we walk through those lines of, is this right for the platform? We're working very hard to make sure we pick the best stuff. But so to answer your question, the things that we have on GoodTube Kids, we want to make sure that nothing contradicts what I would call mere Christianity. And so Christianity, let's say as we all understood it back in like 1980, right? Like back when before things got way out of whack. But nothing contradicts the mere Christian and conservative principles that I think are easy to understand, right?
Explain that term, mere Christianity. What does that what does that mean?
Well, when we look at C.S. Lewis's book Mere Christianity, when we look at Frank Turek talk about mere Christianity, I like to say it's the basics of Christianity, which would be the Trinity, the eternal and God's attributes, eternality, omnipotence, all good. The books we would read from Dr. Craig for kids about Jesus,
His
who was
attributes.
Jesus. What's that?
Oh, you're talking about his kids' books on the
His
attributes
kids'
of God.
books. Yep, which I've got right down here. And so, and then who Jesus was. Jesus was both God and man who came down to earth. And so these are in counter to Mormon theology, to Jehovah's Witness theology, to other theologies that have strayed away from what I continue to go back to mere Christianity. I don't think you're going to find these delineated out on the page, but I tell everybody that GoodTube Kids is founded on the verse Proverbs 22:6. Train up your child in the way they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. And so you're going to be getting these this kind of obvious Christian anchoring, Christian foundation, without my personal theology being played out strictly. But I would say that we fall in line with like Trail Life USA when we talk about the triune Godhead, who Jesus was, his death and resurrection being real things that occurred and have effects in our life, the existence of right and wrong or good and bad as objective realities, not in a Platonistic sense, but objective realities that exist and that we adhere to. And like I said, on cultural topics, boys are boys, girls are girls, a man and a woman is a marriage, we're pro-life, but not every one of those is laid out. They're just seen, which
Yeah.
is where we were in media not but 10 years ago, and solidly 30 years ago. It wasn't all said, it just was seen. And so
Yeah.
that's how I think you'll see GoodTube Kids to be.
Yeah, you were talking about Proverbs 22:6, and I was reminded of a story told by Charles Spurgeon. And he said when he was growing up, there was on their mantle a jar with an apple in it, and the apple could not fit through the opening. And for a long time, he's trying to figure out how did that apple get in there? And like he's looking at the bottom, there's got to be a false bottom, and somehow you can open it up. But there was no false bottom. It was just a plain glass jar, and he just couldn't figure it out. And finally, one of his parents told him the secret to this apple in the jar. And it was, the apple was placed in there when it was smaller, and it grew so big that it couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And he used this as an analogy for instilling in your children the virtues of the faith. And so when you start at a young age and you teach them the values of the Christian faith, it's going to stay with them, and it's going to it's going to grow inside of them to the point where it's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And they're not, they're not going to be able to pick it all out,
Yep.
take it out of the opening like that jar with the apple in it. So I thought that was a great analogy.
That's great. And that's what we want to do. We want youth to be seen. One of the biggest things is I don't want our children to think that your faith is here and your sports, your career, your relationships, your hobbies are all over here, and never the two should intertwine, which I think I don't think, they are being told that in the culture. Don't speak out about your faith at sports. You can't pray on the field. You can't pray when you're at work. And some people feel like they can't pray when they're out to dinner. This, just hide it under a cover there, hide your light under a shade. And I want them to understand that you can go hunting, you can go fishing, you can go be a welder, you can go be in law enforcement, you can be all these things, and your faith goes with you, and it is you. It's not this thing that you hide or carry with you. And so that's one of the things we want to do with Good Tube Kids is I want them to see just other Christians making cookies, making crafts, and maybe after we before we eat the duck, you'll see us pray, thank you, God, for this meal. Or, we're going out hunting today, so dear God, please keep us safe. But not as it's ham-fisted in there, do you see my faith? It just is who I am. It is how we exist on this platform. And so that is, I think, a more natural way for our youth to see faith played out, because right now it's very difficult for them. Either a show is secular or it's VeggieTales. And I think that there's a place in between where we can just have life with our faith walking out. There's a really funny video from Cool Carl that'll be on Good Tube Kids Zone soon, and it talks about how VeggieTales was created, and they're like, well, how are their hands going to connect? They just float in the air. They're like, they'll never ask a question about it. They're not even, and they come in and like, these two guys say, all right, what do kids love? And they're like, I don't know, puppies and cotton candy. I'm like, no, you shut up. They love vegetables. And they get all, and then they're like, tomatoes aren't vegetables. Who cares? They'll never know. They'll never question it. It's super great. It's one of my favorite episodes of Cool Carl. But we love making these partners and then telling parents, here's a great group where you can go find more. Right? I don't want to hold these parents from finding these other companies. I want them to find out about all these other great companies and what they're doing, so that parents don't feel alone. I want them to know there are other people out there fighting for the good, fighting to give your kids good resources, but it's going to take effort. It's going to take work. It's going to take us seeking them out, because what's easy? YouTube and Amazon. Super easy. But it's going to take effort. And so I encourage parents to, I think, we've heard the sermons that our heart is where our money goes often. And so we're going to have to spend some money. We're going to have to make some sacrifices. I pray that my life demonstrates my adherence to that ideal.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, like I said, I'm a subscriber. I think everybody out there should be subscribers. One of the things that I thought of too is that how great of a resource this is for homeschoolers.
Yeah, we're really working on that.
We homeschool our daughter, and it's just one of those things where she doesn't need as much time during the day as public school kids to get through all of the lessons that she has, because obviously it's just her. And so, there's more attention on the content, and She can just get through it at her own pace. Whereas
Yep.
in the classroom, you're having to like, slow things down to make sure that kids
Mhm.
don't get left behind. And so what that means is she gets done after, a couple hours, few hours
Yep.
of homeschooling, and then she's got all this time to do what she wants.
Hmm.
And so, how are we filling that time? And I think this is GoodTube Kids is a great resource for edifying that time,
Thank you. Yeah.
getting new skills, getting to watch entertaining content, but also making sure that those values are also instilled during that time.
Yeah.
So I could see this being a wonderful resource for the homeschool community as well.
That's a big area. My son is homeschooled as well, and we'd love to have, as we continue to refine the resources we already have on there, I'd like to have, I think with torchlighters, there's questionnaires and studies about these different heroes of the Christian faith. What do we learn about John Bunyan and his life, who wrote
Mm,
Pilgrim's Progress? What do we learn about some of these other martyrs of the Christian faith? And you could use that for book studies. You can use it for book reports. There are audiobooks on GoodTube Kids now. There's also famous poems on GoodTube Kids that have been read aloud. Voices in Vox, I think is the name of it. And there is just an ever-growing library of, like I said, entertaining and educational resources. We have the Zoo Minute, where you can learn about different animals, or Fluffies in the Wild about endangered animals. And so here's a place where you could say, all right, we're going to learn about an animal today. Which one do you want to pick? We're going to read about one of the martyrs today. Which one do you want to pick? From Freedom Project Media, we have, I think, 17 different 2 to 3 minute clips on battles of America, from Brandywine to Fort Ticonderoga. And so comprehensive little videos that your youth can learn about. So it is a resource. We want to be entertaining and helpful. So much more to come.
Fantastic, man. Real quick, I wanted to talk about the fact that you're also, like I said, a client of Sound Faith Consulting.
Mhm.
You're on our speaker team, and so we do talent management and booking. And so we want to get you out there. We want to see you go into churches, go into
Great.
schools,
Yeah.
other organizations, to speak about the topics that you have and the wisdom that you've accumulated over the years on these things. So, what are some of the topics that you speak on, and how much speaking are you looking to do in this coming year?
Well, I really like to be able to get out and give a talk. One of the main talks we give is called How to Protect Your Child Emotionally, Spiritually, and Physically in the Digital Realm. And this talk, every time I've given it, it is impactful. It really opens up parents' eyes to what is happening out there. In fact, I talk about GoodTube Kids in there, but really at the very end, because you have to get this information. And so, if you'd like me to come out to your church or to your school, I can talk about the dangers of the digital realm. We talk about passive and interactive internet use and the difference between the two. We talk about pedophiles, sexual extortion. There's so much to pack into this hour and a half with an opportunity for questions. And then we talk about the ideological push that our children are constantly receiving from major media enterprises. A talk I give, I just started working with a company called Screen Strong, and that talks about internet and online and video game addiction, and how we need to really make sure that we are protecting our children from that. And I can give both these talks virtually, but I can also give them in person. I can tell you what, in person, they're both powerful talks. The internet and the digital realm, it is the greatest battle space for our children's minds and hearts and hands and time and eyes. And then I also, as a Christian apologist, love talking about Christian apologetics. I work with Frank Turek and cross-examine, or Dr. Turek, to get that. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, and so I know that they allow us to go out and give that talk as well. And then if you have anything that you have questions on, to include security, church security, and other apologetics topics, happy to entertain those as well, to make sure I can be the best person for that, because there's a lot of great persons out there.
Fantastic. Well, you are, I believe you told me you're going to have a place on GoodTube Kids where people can inquire about speaking engagements. You can also go to soundfaithconsulting.com where we have Chris listed on our speaker team. You can also book through our website as well. He's such a great speaker. I mean, he spoke with for our Reasonable Faith team at one of our Reasonable Faith banquets, and everybody was just blown away. You're such a good speaker. You're so
Thank you.
dynamic and passionate about these topics and knowledgeable. And so we want to encourage you guys, if these are topics that are interesting to you, you want to learn more about cybersecurity and keeping
Yep.
your kids safe online, this is the time to do it. So please contact us to get Chris scheduled. So let's just go ahead and wrap things up. We've been going for about an hour. You know, we've got an idea of like how incredible this platform is and how helpful it can be. And so I want to support it as much as possible. I'm doing that, first of all, through subscribing.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage everyone out there to get a subscription to GoodTube Kids. How else can people be supporting you and what you do?
Golly, I really appreciate the support. It's so encouraging. You know, when I left January 3rd from the FBI and I sat January 2nd, January 3rd, the morning of, I sit down at my computer like you're seeing me here, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a big, big mountain to climb. You know, how do we compete with these major platforms? But now you're right. Every subscription helps. You know, I get a notification on my phone every time somebody subscribes, and it's a new subscriber, and I thank God every single time somebody subscribes. And then when somebody unsubscribes, I write them and I ask, how can we better serve you? What can we do to better serve your family? Because that's our goal. So subscribing to GoodTube Kids, even as we grow, you know, I know we're not Disney. We don't have 30 years of content behind us, but we're working every day to grow and serve you. And I think that we really built a great platform. So if you can subscribe, please subscribe. And then if you want to support GoodTube Kids and you maybe don't have a child in the home anymore, we have gift cards available on GoodTube Kids, the watchgoodtubekids.com. If you want to wear some of our merchandise, we just got our store opened up. So if you go to our main site, goodtubekids.com, you'll find everything there. You'll find a way to buy merchandise from our new store. We have hoodies and hats and caps. In fact, it was -15 when I was at work last night. So warm hoodies and warm hats are a must up here in Alaska. And then you can find out how to just give. Some people have been very, very gracious to just give to support the mission there. There's a way you can click there, and just getting the word out. If you just want to learn more, sign up for our newsletter. You can start to receive our free newsletter for parents and tell people about the resources we have there. So subscribe, you'll get our free newsletter, sign up for our free newsletter. If you'd like to buy some merchandise, please do, to represent. And you can always give, and we always appreciate each and every dollar and bit of time that people have done just like this to help us out.
Excellent. Well, we're going to include links in the description of this video. Chris, man, thank you so much for joining me. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to GoodTube Kids growing and growing.
Great. I do too. Thank you so much. And thank you to this platform. I look forward to doing this again.